Right. Hello, everyone. I am Abhijit. I am one of the co-organizers of the Taqelah community, and I want to welcome all of you to our very first meetup of 2024. Before we begin, can I please get a raise of hands from those who are attending the meetup for the first time? Okay. So I think that's quite a lot of new faces over here. Thanks a lot for giving us a chance to be giving us a chance to help you out, and also we would like to welcome you as well. Uh, since we have a lot of new faces this time, I would like to give a bit of intro about Taqelah. So Taqelah is a community that we started in Singapore around 2017, 2018. And what does Taqelah stand for? Taqelah stands for Test Automation Quality Engineering La. So the La is basically the Singlish word La. And earlier we had a different name for it. We were a bit focused on mobile testing specifically, but we wanted it to be a generic community where topics and problems from various different domains could be discussed when it comes to testing and test automation. So here we are, and I would like to welcome you all once again. So for the sake of safety and convenience, I would like to let you know that in case of any emergency, we can head out to the stairs, which are just behind the lifts. And in case if you want to use the washrooms, those are also outside the entrance of the office. Now, we will start off with our very first talk, and this is going to be a very interesting one. Uh, Ida Low from GovTech. She's a lead software quality engineer. She's going to be talking about impact of AI Copilot on quality engineers' work. So please welcome Ada as she's going to present on this topic. Over to you.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Abhijit, for the lovely introduction. And so I'm Ada. The topic for today, as Abhijit have introduced, is going to be, I'll be talking about AI co-pilots and the impact on QE work. So maybe just to provide some context, this is not going to be like an AI training session, but what I hope to bring about is more AI awareness to the QE community. I will share my humble opinion on the impact and share with you also some tips on how to stay relevant in this new AI era. Yeah, so this is going to be the structure of the sharing today. I'll start off with what are AI coding tools, introduce GitHub Copilot, go into the various types of testing, give some examples of Copilot in action, discuss the impact on QE work, and how do all of us stay more relevant. So first of all, what are AI coding tools? So AI coding tools are actually software programs that uses artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithm to assist developers and QE alike in all our coding tasks. It's actually a form of generative AI. So I will explain a little bit about what do we mean by generative AI. Yeah. So the term generative AI actually comprises of two words, artificial intelligence and generative. So the artificial intelligence piece is just a fancy term to describe a program that does a job that a human would otherwise do. And the other part is actually generative. By generative, what it means is to create new content. It could be new content based on things that the tool have not actually seen. It may actually have seen bits and parts of it, but it's able to synthesize the content and then give us new information. So the new information could be of various types. It could be text, it could be code, it could be audio, it could be images, video, etc. But today, because we are talking about coding tools, we will focus on the code piece So the new content is actually the code snippet. Yeah, so here I put together some of the more popular AI coding tools. Maybe before I continue, may I actually ask for a show of hands, how many of you have actually used chatbots like ChatGPT or Gemini by Google? Can I have a show of hands? Okay, pretty much everyone. Thank you. Okay, can I also then ask how many of you have are familiar or have used coding assistants? For example, GitHub Copilot, Codium, Turbine, or OpenAI Codex. Okay, I see there's a drop in the number of hands. Okay, yep. Okay, so actually to me, right, you as a developer, as a QE, you really only need two tools. So one is a general large language model chatbots, like a ChatGPT, and the other part is actually a coding assistant, like GitHub Copilot or any other coding assistants that suit your use case. So you just need one general chatbot and also pick a coding assistant of your choice. But for today, I'm going to go more into introducing GitHub Copilot. Okay, so this is what the GitHub Copilot website claims is the world's most widely adapted AI developer tool. So what is GitHub Copilot? GitHub Copilot is a cloud-based AI coding assistant that is integrated right into the IDE that you are using. So by IDE, some examples would be Visual Studio, JetBrains IntelliJ IDEA, NeoVim or Vim. All these are some of the supported IDEs. And then who created it? GitHub Copilot is jointly developed by GitHub. It's owned by Microsoft and OpenAI. And as you can see here, OpenAI is also 49% owned by Microsoft. So it's pretty much just Microsoft. Okay. How has the tool been trained? So it's powered by generative AI model, co-developed by GitHub, OpenAI, and Microsoft. It has been trained on natural language text, as well as the millions of lines of source codes from all the various public repositories, especially GitHub public repositories. Okay, some of the examples of what GitHub Copilot can do. So Copilot is revolutionizing the way that we write code. It's able to suggest code as we type in the IDE. It's also able to suggest code based on natural language prompts. For example, if you type in a command, it's able to interpret the command and suggest codes for you. It actually has the context of your code base. It also has the context of the libraries that you are using in your code base. It's able to also suggest libraries or functions that you have not thought of or heard of. So you actually can learn from the AI tool itself. And so what if you, the AI is not able to give you something that is suitable or something that you like? You are actually able to navigate through all the suggestions provided. You just have to hold down the option key and then the left-right bracket. Then you can navigate through all the various options that are provided and suggest the best option that suits your needs. It's also able to create a unit test case for the function implemented. Some of the other use cases includes it's also able to write SQL statements, which will be quite useful for data preparations. It's also able to explain the suggested code to you as to what the code is doing. It's also able to help do some administrative functions like generate change requests or generate commit descriptions. Okay, where to get GitHub Copilot? So if you are using IntelliJ IDEA, it's available as a plugin. If you are using Visual Studio, is also available as an extension in the marketplace. So once you have the plugin or the extension installed, GitHub Copilot will actually ask you to sign into your GitHub account. So there's a requirement for this linkage. You have to have a GitHub account. Yep, it's pretty simple. After you link it up with your GitHub account, you will be asked to select some preferences and configurations. And once you are done with that, you're pretty much ready to do the pairing. Just to mention that for AI Copilot, there's an individual plan which is at the lowest tier of all the plans available. But this individual plan has a 30 days free trial. So if you're interested and you want to get your hands dirty, you can try out this 30 days free trial. A word of caution, the cost, actually, when you're using the tool, the codes are sent to GitHub in the background. So it may not actually be very suitable for you to use it on your official work projects. If you are considering to adopt it for work, you might actually consider to use the business plan or the enterprise plan. So for Copilot Business at the bottom, by default, it does not retain any prompt or suggestions. Okay, this is a landscape of GitHub Copilot. So what we have just described so far are the first one, the basic GitHub Copilot. So it's basically an AI pair programming tool integrated into your IDE. It provides code suggestion, auto-completion. Currently, is available across all supported IDEs. Then we have a more advanced tool, which is what we call GitHub Copilot Chat. It's actually also integrated into the same IDE environment. But for this Copilot Chat, is like you are able to start a conversation with your code base. It's just like having ChatGPT write your IDE. But it also understands your code base. Yes, so it's able to support answers to coding questions, explain your codes, help you fix your code, and generate unit tests. But for the GitHub Copilot Chat, currently it's available as a beta if you are using Visual Studio, but if you're using IntelliJ, it's still on the waiting list. And furthermore, actually, GitHub Copilot plan to launch this more advanced tool called Copilot Workspace. This is not yet available, but I just want to put it here to showcase to you the possibility. And one thing to note is that for Copilot Workspace, you will need your code to be hosted on GitHub itself. Whereas if you are using the other GitHub Copilot tools, you don't need, there's no restriction that you need to host your code on GitHub. Okay, I'll move on to the various basic testing types, the QE, all the QE activities in the different environments, and demo some Copilot usages. So for QE, right, basically we'll divide testing into two types, functional tests on the left and non-functional tests on the right. So for functional tests, when we do test automation, we pretty much will follow the agile testing pyramid. So at the bottom are the unit tests that test small pieces of code together. They are very easy to write. It's very good for the developers to validate that what they write is actually what they think the code is doing. The middle is the API test layer, and the topmost layer is the what we call the UI end-to-end or workflow test. So the adoption of AI Copilot here will be more like as you type, as you automate your tests, Copilot will be able to offer suggestions to your test scripts. You can also generate test code from the natural language prompts. Okay, but just a note that because the higher you go towards the pyramid, the more complex is the business scenario and the use case, Copilot may actually lack context and ability to generate accurate codes for you. So the higher you go, the harder it is to ask Copilot to generate code for you. On the right side, for non-functional tests, I think currently it's a bit difficult to adopt AI Copilot, but you can still use it to ask for instructions and examples on how these tests can be carried out. Okay, so for QE work, some of the work carried out in the lower environment, dev, SIT, QA, for example, test automation, CI/CD integration, test data setup, pipelines monitoring, etc. So all these will benefit from GitHub Copilot in generating those automation codes. Okay, but for the higher environment, again, because there's less automation, like for example, executing user acceptance tests in the staging environment, it is manual. It's not so easy to adopt coding assistance. Also a word of caution that because the higher environment probably would contain some sensitivity of data, so again, because the code is sent to GitHub, it may not actually be, especially a production environment, it may not actually be very suitable to use AI coding assistance. So here I have some code to demonstrate how a Copilot works. So for the purpose of the demo, I just wrote a very simple inventory function. You can just imagine it as any other inventory function that that would have maybe a bakery store or a supermarket has. So after I wrote the add to inventory function, right, I then use the command, the portion that is in green, ask it to fetch a certain number of items back from the inventory. So as you can see, I don't even need to code it myself. The gray portion are what the GitHub Copilot suggested for me. And I read it, it suits my needs, and I can just tap to accept the code that he has suggested for me. Okay, this is an example of using the Copilot chat function. So on the left-hand side, what you see is the chat function. So what my instruction is asking to write tests for the inventory function. So as you can see, it's actually successfully generated unit test cases for me, and the coverage is actually not bad. It's able to generate test case covering a successful add, fetch, negative test cases such as insufficient items, non-numeric quantity, and if the item is not found, is also able to generate a test case for that. So the next demo, I actually asked Copilot to write a UI test for me, just to give it some challenge. So the requirement that I asked is to write a UI test in Selenium Java. So what it has generated based on the context of what I have written, the inventory function, it actually generated the code that you see here. It actually assumes that I already have a web interface, and then try to add and fetch the items in this code that you see here. So it's a Java Selenium code, assuming that I already have a web interface. Okay, the next one is a data prep SQL demo. So I'm just using the command, the one in green, to ask it to write a SQL statement to create an inventory table for me. So this is the code that it automatically generates. I also ask it to insert data, insert 10 bakery items into the inventory table. So it successfully added different bakery items and the associated quantity. Then I asked it to write a query for me to fetch only cakes, and the quantity has to be more than 2. So it's also able to accurately generate the query for me. This is a security test. Because actually the code that I've written is pretty simple. There's really nothing much to talk about for security. But in any case, the GitHub Copilot tried to explain what a security test could be for this inventory function that I've written. Is also able to highlight some of the obvious security issues like SQL injection, cross-site scripting, CSRF vulnerabilities. And then it further highlighted that a potential security concern could be the data type that I stored inside the inventory. It could be a non-numeric value because I don't have a check for the input type into the inventory. So it's able to suggest a potential security concern here. Okay, this one is a UAT test. So I actually asked Copilot to write me a user acceptance test, which it successfully did using behavioral-driven approach on the left, and also without behavioral-driven approach on the right. But I do have to say that because of the functionality is pretty simple, it's able to do so, but whether it's still able to do so if you give it more complex scenario or use cases, this is still an open question that have to be validated. Okay, so for the purpose of testing whether it's able to repair my code, right? I introduce a bug in my code and I ask it to fix it for me. So interestingly, it's able to do so. So at least also what I did was I did a multiple export. I did the exporting of the Node.js function twice. So here in the Copilot chat, it's actually able to detect that and it actually tells you that you are exporting your function multiple times in the same file. In Node.js, you should only use module.exports once. And here is how you can fix your code. Okay, maybe I just pause a little while here to ask if there's any questions so far. Okay, if not, I'll move on to the next portion, which I will share about the impact on GitHub Copilot and what are the things that I think will change in terms of QE work. So I think the very first item is testing will become AI augmented. Secondly, development will be a lot more faster and accelerated. And lastly, even the AI test automation, the test automation tools platform nowadays also have the AI component integrated. So for AI augmented testing, so now the testing that QE does, we have AI with the help of AI, like Copilot, Copilot Chat, ChatGPT. We can write tests a lot faster. There should be much less manual coding. We should be able to generate more tests and more robust test scenario because the AI coding assistant can actually help you think of scenarios that you may not have thought of. Your testing framework can remain unchanged. You don't have to change your testing framework. It doesn't touch your testing framework. We can also learn from the tool. But on the downside, I think it still required QE, who are actually the subject matter expertise, to know what you ask the tool to test for you. And also for QE, right, I think you will be spending a considerable amount of time refining the LLM output because what they generated for you may not be what you want. You still have to customize. You probably need to spend quite a bit of time doing that. And it's still an open question if AI can create business meaningful test scenarios and reduce the risk. Next. So in summary, I think generating test code from natural language prompts will become the standard moving forward. Okay, the second part is that I think because the developers are also using the AI coding tools, they can actually now code much faster. So there will be a productivity gain for the developer. They generate more codes, but of course, the code could also be incorrect because they may just accept whatever the AI coding tool suggests. It can also introduce a greater code supply chain risk. For example, if you outsource your code to vendors to do it for you, and they are also using AI coding tools, and then you can see how the codes get layered with the AI coding tool, and you have no control whether they actually be weighing those codes properly or not. And of course, an over-reliance. People who are not very experienced developers or QE, they may just opt for the first suggestions that they see, which may not be the best solution. Yeah. So for QE, because now there's more code being generated, instead of thinking that there'll be less for QE to do, I actually think that there'll be more work for QE. Because we need to scale in order to test the more codes that are being generated by the developers. We will probably need to do more test automation, but do test automation faster with the help of AI tools. We need to increase our test velocity and coverage. We need to scale up our test data generation. We also need to increase the code validation and scans because, again, the output from your LLM model could be wrong. So this part about human input and supervision are definitely still necessary. Yeah, okay. So this one is about test automation platforms. So some of the top testing platforms are listed here, like Taqelah, Lambda Test, SmartBear. They are all coming out with the new version. They have AI built in already. So if you are thinking, I mean, some of the teams or QE might be thinking of using them. So definitely, if you do choose to use them, you will see an increase in testing productivity. It will mean that the test script generation is low code or zero, even zero code. And because of this testing platform that's being adopted, the AI output is already managed by the platform. It's already tailored for testing purposes. So you might actually be benefit from spending less time to manage the LLM output because the platform already manage it for you. It may also include other features such as self-healing mechanism. For example, if it is talking about UI test automation, identifying object elements sometimes could be flaky. But if we're using this AI platform to do the testing, they actually built in mechanism to help you recover or auto update the element to the new name or identifier name. Yeah, but if you do want to use AI test automation tool, you might have to change your framework. You might have to change your testing framework. It can be costly, and some of the features that they offered could also have some overlaps with the tools that. For example, for GovTech, we are using Sheep and Hats. We already have some of the scanning tools that actually the testing platform are also offering. So there could be some overlaps. Yep. Okay. So this part is about what I think we need to do to stay relevant in the new AI era. We need to increase AI awareness. We probably need to also look out for AI training and coaching. The third one that I highlighted is a key thing that I think we need to do. We need to plan for a skill shift and how to do smarter testing, which I will talk about more in the next slide. And lastly, apart from code generation, we probably would also want to explore other use cases relevant for QE to use. So planning for skill shift. So how do we actually do smarter testing? So I listed here some of the suggestions that I have. I think we need to learn and collaborate with Copilot to automate faster, to support accelerated development. So in the past, we have been trying to catch up with all the different test frameworks and programming languages. So now we should put our focus back to quality and let AI do the programming bit. I think we should also try to track or have a way to tag the AI generated test code because we probably need to validate that. So when there are issues being introduced, you probably will want to know which are the part of the code that's generated by AI. And then very importantly, we should try to shift left to focus on testing strategies, ownership, decision-making, designing of tests based on complex requirement. All these are the things that AI cannot replace. Next, please. So in general, I think AI is not a substitute for evaluating quality. Developer and QE, we need to know what we are doing to create meaningful tests. And we may still be better at AI than figuring out where the bugs are. And you need to review your LLM outputs. So to create meaningful tests, I think we need a balanced use of AI assistant without foregoing the human expertise. So it's very important that we need to combine AI with strong QE practices. So I just list down here some of the things that are QE practices related, and we should make sure all these are done, especially now that AI is in the picture. Next. Okay. So this is just a timeline. So for those of you who remembered earlier, like before 2021 or 2022, we are all working on test automation frameworks, trying to find a more lightweight or low-code test automation tools, using any test automation tool that's on the cloud. Some of the popular ones are like Browser Stack, Ulysses, UiPath, Playwright. So now the catalyst for the paradigm shift is AI. So for now, 2022, we have GitHub Copilot Chat, and some of the AI-powered test automation tools. Moving forward, I think AI will continue to evolve. Here, I actually have a video on the Copilot workspace, which is a more capable tool for you to actually understand your business requirement and be able to generate tests for you. But I think in the interest of time, I will not screen the video, but if you're interested, you can click onto the link and then take a look at what this Copilot workspace is. Yeah. So this is just a survey that is done by this global consulting firm known as McKinsey and Company. So they did a survey with the developers and QE on 3 different things. Firstly is where the developers think that AI shines. So here you can see that for code documentation, code generation, code refactoring are among the things that AI actually do very well in. But for high complexity tasks, actually they felt that the completion time with and without generative AI is almost the same for highly complex tasks. The other 2 charts demonstrates that with the use of AI Copilot, the developers are now happier and their productivity have also increased. So this is where the statistics speak for itself, that the GitHub Copilot is really improving the life of developers. So lastly, I just have some food for thoughts as the conclusion. So for the use of Copilots at this point, right, I felt that it's more on increasing coding productivity and really reducing that busy part of your work. It's critical to review your LLM outputs. And there's actually this trade-off that you need to spend more time to review the output rather than the actual test case execution. There are also some limitation to the AI coding tools. So the potential of them, right, and the practical use of them at this moment might actually differ. Some of the limitations include wrong and lack of context. The suggestion can be buggy, low quality, because some of the suggestions actually come from public repository. Those code could have bugs and vulnerabilities in them. Users tend to opt for the first suggestion, and it's more suitable for development or unit tests, but it's still an open question for higher tests like the UI workflow E2E tests. And lastly, need to consider the security aspect of those AI coding tools. For example, your code could have some hard-coded password or secrets. And then if you were to use the individual plan for the AI coding tool, these secrets might actually leak out to somewhere at the back end. So for future of Copilot, it's still something that continue to evolve. So what we have now may only be the new beginning of the AI era. So what we need to do is to continue to keep a lookout for what are the latest things upcoming. Yeah, so here I just put down the AI GitHub Copilot documentation. So if you're interested, this is the place that you should frequently visit to see what are the latest changes that the tool has to offer. So with that, I end my presentation. Thank you very much. Oh, okay. Any questions so far? Yes.
Hello everyone, my name is Johnson. I'm a product owner working closely with developers and QA testers. I have a question here. Imagine a company make use of the same AI tool for code and testing, the same Copilot. Would there be any challenges simply because they are using the same AI to write code? Would it result as a non-effective testing approach? Because it's the same AI, so there will be biasness how it wrote the code and test cases.
Okay. Hi, Johnson. Let me try to rephrase the question. So I believe what you're asking is if the developer and QE alike are both using the same AI coding assistant, would there be a conflict in the code being generated and the test case being generated? Did I capture the question correctly? Okay. The effectiveness of testing. So for QE, as you see in the testing pyramid, we layered the tests accordingly to unit tests, API tests, and E2E tests. So what AI Copilot or coding assistant are best at doing are still at the unit test level. So these are the tests that typically are written by developers themselves. So I think in terms of the unit test, it wouldn't really have so-called concern about not being effective. But if you are talking about the higher level of the test, which are the business workflow tests, right? So this one, because if you're using the AI tool, you need to input the correct context into the tool. So if the entry point is already wrong, then the output could be something that you didn't expect it to be. So in a way, yes, for the higher level of the testing pyramid, I think the test code generated may not be as effective, but the lower layer of the pyramid, the unit test and such, would probably benefit a lot from the coding tool. Yeah. Thank you, Johnson, for the question. I hope I answered your question. Hi. Hi, Dada.
Yeah, in the initial slides, I think they mentioned like we can use Copilot for the pipeline monitoring. Can you give some examples like how can Copilot be helpful in monitoring the pipeline?
Right. So for pipeline monitoring, it depends on currently what is your practice in doing the monitoring. Are you monitoring them manually? Because for coding assistant, it will work best if you are automating the process, right? Then they will actually help you to automate the code. But if you are talking about monitoring a pipeline, for example, you are going to build dashboards. This is more like a DevOps task. Then it's fall under more of the operational side of things.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm using this GitHub Copilot for coding, like Scala language, but pipeline setup and DevOps thing are mostly YAML based, right? Like,
right.
So I'm just curious, like, how can a Copilot be helpful in generating YAML?
Yeah, great question. So actually, typically, if the DevOps team is using Infra as code, if they're using Terraform, Ansible, all these, I think GitHub Copilot will still be very useful because it actually, because it has been trained on all the various public repository codes. So those projects would include infra project as well. So GitHub Copilot do understand things like Terraform. It understands how Terraform works. It also have its hands on some of the Terraform codes, which could be useful in your use case. But likely you would need to still customize for your own purpose. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we can have one more question. I think slightly over there.
Hello, Lisa here. I
Hello,
want to
Lisa.
ask two questions actually. One of the sensitivity of the codes. Like some of the projects might have like a high sensitivity restricted, or some of them it's even higher actually.
Right.
Like, is there any concerns of using GitHub Copilot for that type of sensitive codes?
Right. Great question. So I think privacy and security has all along been a great concern with regards to AI coding assistance. So for AI, so it depends on the AI coding tool that you choose to use. For GitHub Copilot, if you are using the individual plan, the prompt that you key in and the suggestions that they offer are actually sent back to GitHub at the back end. So it's not secure. It's definitely open to security risk, which is why they actually offer business and enterprise versions, which are supposed to turn off all these things sending to the back end by default. So that is the answer for AI Copilot. But then again, apart from GitHub AI Copilot, there are also other coding assistants like Turbine. So Turbine is actually tailored more for enterprise usage. So the so-called the data that they have been trained are higher quality. It also offers a solution that's on-prem, because if you notice for GitHub Copilot is entirely cloud-based. So when it comes to cloud-based security, is of course a concern. But if your project security level is so high, confidential, such that it's really your main concern, right? Then perhaps you could consider other AI coding assistants that is actually local, as in on-prem. So they might be a better solution for you.
My second question about the consistency of the results, because in AI tools in general, if you ask the query multiple times, or if you open new windows and ask the same query, you might get inconsistent answers. So how we can optimize such a way that we can create consistency? I mean, they have like a settings, like a creativity settings and all. But is there any way that you might suggest to get consistent response from Copilot or any other AI tool?
Okay, so the question is how to get more consistent output from the coding assistant. So one thing is the fact that every time you ask the coding assistant the same question, it's possible that they give you different outputs. What you can do is that on the next time you ask it again, right, you fine tune your input. You give it a little bit more context, give it a little bit more detail, it should give you a better answer. And based on that improve or improvise input, right? If you ask back the same input, it will be more consistent.
Thank you.
Thank you.